Good day. The AODB class of Professor Rosicar Escober is obliged to make an Enterprise Information System or EIS for the local government unit or LGU. For our group, our part is to make the LGU financials or accounting part of the database. In behalf of my group mates, Jemma Boticario, Junel Dayao, and Joel Doringo, I am Mr. Poblete to report about the LGU financials. Before going to the project charter, I will be discussing first, or I will be giving an overview about the parts of LGU Financials. So LGU Financials covers four parts: the general ledger, the accounts receivable, and the accounts payable, and the cashiering. So the general ledger is the company's main accounting records. A general ledger is a complete record of financial transactions over the life of a company. The ledger holds account information that is needed to prepare financial statements and includes accounts for assets, liabilities, owner's equity, revenues, and expenses. While the accounts receivable or AR is the money owed by customers, individuals, or corporations to another entity in exchange for goods or services that have been delivered or used but not yet paid for. While the accounts payables is an accounting entry that represents an entity's obligation to pay off a short-term debt to its creditors. The accounts payable entry is found on a balance sheet under the heading Current Liabilities. Lastly is the cashiering, or the cashiering is the one who receives the payment and issues official receipt. Now, let's move on with the project charter. LG Financial caters to more than 1,000 records of transaction every year. They currently use semi-computerized system in recording all of the transactions in cashiering, accounts receivable, accounts payable, and general ledger. However, due to increase of transactions, a new system and database is required to be designed and set up in the LGU. The purpose of this project is to design a database system that caters to the business rules and requirements of the LGU financial management for cashiering, accounts receivable, accounts payable, and general ledger. The database management system or DBMS design will be tested against the business requirements, business rules, and module reports and analytics. Now, let's move on with the benefits of this project. The following are the benefits of the database design project. First is the LGU. Designing the database structure of LGU financials will help them to improve their services. They can easily monitor their property, income, and expenses. The redesign and model of the additional module would greatly increase its system efficiency and output. Next is the people of the Philippines. Good performance of database management system will satisfy them by having an accurate and reliable service from LGU. Next are the employees. Increased system capabilities would allow the employees of Human Resource Department or HRD to have lighter workload and increased efficiency, therefore giving more focus on their other duties. Self-service application would free up employee time and decrease the need to render overtime to fulfill the demands of the company. Next is the country. This will increase the country's revenue and opportunity to improve government services and infrastructure. Lastly is the environment. Increasing the efficiency and self-service capability of its ERP system, the environment would benefit in decreased use of paper and natural resources. Now let's move on with the project scope and start with objectives. In parallel with the goals of the project, the following are the objectives in designing the database for LGU financials. First, to gather and document the EIS requirement of the project by analyzing the existing forms and reports. Second, to produce conceptual schema and achieve understanding of database structure, semantics, interrelationships, and constraints. Third, to produce a design of the different transactions in cashiering, accounts receivable, accounts payable, and general ledger. Fourth, to choose which is the best framework for implementing the produced schema, taking into consideration economic and organization factors. Fifth is to develop the logical and physical design of the database. Sixth is to create a database. And lastly is to document the project. Now, let's move on with the deliverables. In line with the objectives stated, the following are the deliverables of the projects. First is the basic EIS requirement documentation. Second is the database schema. Third is the data dictionary. And last is the project charter and documentation. Now, I will be discussing the scope and limitation. This table shows the in-scope and out-of-scope of the database design project for LGU Financials. First is the cashiering. The in-scope of the cashiering is the payment and issuance of official receipt. The out-of-scope is the batch payment. Next, the in-scope of the accounts receivable is the bank deposits, and the out-of-scope is the other receivable. The in-scope of the accounts payable are the disbursement and miscellaneous, purchase order, receiving petty cash and liquidation, and the out-of-scope is the other payables. For the general ledger, the in-scope are the voucher, cash receipts journals, cash disbursement journal, check disbursement journal, and the general ledger itself, while the out-of-scope are the trial balance, balance sheet, statement of income and expenses, and the statement of cash flows. Now, let's discuss the technical features of the LGU Financials. The database design for LGU Financials is divided into 4 modules, namely cashiering, accounts receivable, accounts payable, and general ledger. The project aims to design a conceptual and physical design using MS SQL without using an application program interface against the business rule of LGU. The database design must be able to run 5 queries in each module, 2 reports in each module, and 5 reports connecting the 4 databases. Each database must contain 100 records. The following are the modules included in the cashiering, accounts receivable, accounts payable, and general ledger. For the cashiering, it covers the official receipt and payment type. For the accounts receivable, it covers the bank deposit slip, purchase order, receiving report, payment voucher, petty cash, and liquidation is covered by accounts payable. COA, BOA, journal voucher, ledger entries, and post-closing are covered by general ledger. Along with the database design, project charter and EIS documentation must be prepared. Now, I will be discussing about the business requirements analysis starting with the basic EIS requirements. Let's start with the database. The cashiering, accounts receivable, accounts payable, and general ledger should have separate databases with at least 100 records each. 2 or more database engines must be used during the implementation. Records must contain credible and not fictitious names, addresses, contact numbers, and other fields. Now, for the queries, in the database, 5 queries in every module should be successfully run and documented. The following queries were generated from the database design. For the cashiering, official receipt, income collection summary report, list of payment by cash, list of payment by check, list of payment by bank transfer. Summary of deposits, list of deposits by month, list of deposit by year, list of deposit by bank, and list of deposit check was run and documented by accounts receivable. For the accounts payable, check and cash disbursement, purchase order, receiving report, petty cash, and liquidation was documented. Lastly, for the accounting, the COA, BOA, journal voucher, ledger entries, and post-closing was documented. Now, let's discuss about the reports. Each database should be able to generate 2 reports. The following reports were generated from 4 modules individually and combined. Official receipt, income, collection, summary report was generated from cashiering. The accounts receivable was able to generate the summary of deposit and list of deposit by bank. The accounts payable generated the check and cash disbursement and liquidation. General ledger and list of COA was generated by accounting. And lastly, for the integrated report, the general ledger and the cash receipt journal was generated. This concludes our report. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you learned something from it. Goodbye. Thank you again.